In terms of contested picks, though, because I think the Cassidy is kind of like a formulaic, play early game, win game, don't let them get to 16. I think the contested ones, though, and I'm really excited about this one in draft, are going to be Poppy, Rakan, and Rel. The Rel, either in the jungle or the support, they're the ones I'm really looking at. They're popular, they're strong, both teams play them.
Well, here we have drafts and the teams are ready to go into the Summoner's Rift. I'm really curious to see what they're banning on this first phase, as it can also be a really good a really good thinking process of what they want to pick. We start off with BDS Valkyries banning this Rumble. Do you feel like he still has this priority? Do you feel like, what do you feel like these teams are trying to do here with this Rumble and this Ziggs being banned, as you actually mentioned before?
So Ziggs makes sense because it is one of those picks we were just discussing about for the bot lane, but Rumble, I love this as the first ban from BDS Valkyries because he is a lane bully and he really shuts down a lot of other lane bullies on the top lane. So if you don't want to try to come ways to play around this really annoying champion, just ban him out and be happy.
Yeah, I think this is the best way to deal. I mean, not to deal with this lane bully, with this top laner. It's pretty understandable. Now we have a Kai'Sa ban, if I'm not mistaken, a Maokai, and on big side we do have the Poppy ban, and the last ban is going to be Rel. What are the priorities that you feel going to the blue side, and then what do you feel the answers might be, J-Real?
So I think Ari, obviously a really popular one. I think they might just lock this in straight away. Rakan also very high on my list, which also potentially brings up Xayah being quite high on the list. So I am interested to see how they lock this one. I think Ari, first pick, blue pick, is standard, it's good, it's comfortable. Nice one from Solary. Moving to big though. Damn, Tristana locked in so fast. I love it.
Solary, what do you think?
I don't know if I love it or hate it, to be honest, because this Tristana has just received some changes. In the patch notes, it is written as slight nerf to her, I quote unquote, but it really looks like a little buff to me because she is still very strong. She still has quite a lot of sustain during her laning phase, and she is a lane bully. Now, paired up with Lilia in the jungle, I'm pretty sure that means that this Tristana is going to the mid, and that means that already the early game should be secured for Big Chroma, still having quite some scaling for them in the kit.
Now, on Solary's side, we do have the Rakan, we do have the Jarvan, so this is highlighting what you mentioned about this jungle and support. They can actually try to build up some plays to play around the map, to play around the objectives, and it can be quite good. Now, we have the answer Lissandra against this Ari. How would you like this, Lissandra? How do you like this, Lissandra? I mean...
So, I don't really know, to be honest. Like, I'm feeling like this could be a Lissandra support, maybe. It may not be in the mid lane. We may still be getting that Tristana in the mid lane. There's a lot of flexibility given out by Big Hit, and I do like that in draft. I like when you hide your picks. You don't give too much over. Do I think Lissandra works really well here? Yes. You have the Jarvan, you have the Rakan, you have the Ari. They're all trying to dive onto your backline. If you're trying to keep your ADC alive, who does it better than Lissandra, who can just freeze up everyone and stop them from getting further? I like the pick a lot. It goes well with the Tristana as well because you're mixing that AD and AP. Plus, the Lilia is just going to be set up really nicely for it. So I like the Lissandra pick, but I will say it doesn't take away from Solary's pick as well. I think the Jarvan has come in really strong and it sets up the Rakan super well on those laning team points.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for the second phase of bans, we have an Aatrox. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I am. And then we have the Xayah and the Misfortune. So they're really trying to ban that AD carry. And on the other side, the Nautilus. What are the options left for both of the teams?
Now, Xayah was a very obvious ban coming in from Big Chroma, but I really expected with this ban Misfortune to be the second option for Solary, so it's interesting to see that Big Chroma actually wrote this out and banned her out themselves. But this Sivir has been locked, and this is the perfect AD carry for Solary in their composition because she hyper scales, and with the scaling already available so nicely for Big Chroma, you want to be able to match them in the late game because Ari is going to be super strong in the mid, but at the very late stages, if we get into a super long game, she's going to suffer a little bit. And this Sivir pretty much fixes this little situation with the damage in the late game.
J-Real, please let me know your thoughts, because you are really...
I don't know how I feel about R5 Renekton. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's happened a lot of times in cars. I might need to bail up man like Aragon, because genuinely I keep seeing this pick, I keep seeing R5 Renekton, and I'm not really sure why people are feeling so much with it. I think it is going to be good in this comp, right? I think it works really well with Lilia, but why not pick it a little bit early, you know? That's what I'm saying right here. But I do like the pick in general. I think into the Camille, it could be a little bit rough. I'm not gonna lie to you, if Solary plays to the top side and they get this Camille snowballing, this Renekton, well, he's just going to become a Lacoste, to be honest. But Lilia could use this top lane really, really effectively, and then kind of leave that bot lane on a little bit of an island and maybe roam a little bit with the Lissandra to try and get themselves ahead. So I'm interested to see how they play these comps, right? But all in all, I'm pretty happy with both comps. I feel like they've locked in good stuff, they've got stuff that is comfortable for them, and I'm excited for this game one.
So let's talk about win cons really shortly about each team. What is the main idea of Solary's composition? What do they want to do in game?
So the main idea here is to try to get their bot lane and the mid lane accelerated, and ideally also shut down the top lane in the process, which of course puts a lot of pressure on the Hao, because Hao is playing J4, and J4 is the jungler who really needs to do as much as possible in the early game, because otherwise he's going to go into a strictly utilitarian jungler in the late game, which is not exactly the perfect situation for Solary. So they need to get him going, and they need to use him a lot. I'm expecting a lot of pressure onto all of the lanes. Wonder which is going to be the priority for them, but that is something that they will need to answer to us. But other than that, the team fights in the mid game are going to be the bread and butter for Solary. They will have the setup for the objectives. They will have a lot of terrain control with Rakan, with J4, with Camille, and I really like to see them using it to the fullest.
And what are the tools that Big have to stop this this strength of Solary, J-Real? What do you feel like they have at their disposal?
So they have a lot, right? So we talk about Solary needs to get a lead in the early game, right? You have a really strong top lane. I talk about Renekton not being my favorite R5 pick, but in terms of early game power, it is there. He's got you, right? And Lilia can really play off that in that pre-6, use that as a free setup on that Camille, and then start to snowball themselves. Because as we said, Jarvan, his window is early game. Lilia hits mid game, hits late game, way more potential in these team fights. But also, on the flip side, they have that Tristana, who is going to be scaling. We all felt the power of a level 18 Tristana with like 4 items, 5 items. It absolutely crushes, and it crushes towers too. So it's one that they have to be careful of, because if they can start opening up the towers early, they get a big gold lead, and then Solary are in a really bad spot. And let's not forget the one champion that they picked up as well for the late game, the Hand of God, the Blitzcrank himself. You need to be careful when it comes to objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a key piece, and I'm really excited to see how can they use Blitz to try to have control of those objectives throughout the game. Let's see about their setups as well. Now, based on the draft, I'm going to ask you the hard question, which is, who do you think is gonna make it with the tools they have chosen? Solary, starting by you.
Ooh, that's a really hard question you're throwing at me, darling. But okay, let me try to answer it. I think individually, the champions and Big Chroma are much stronger, and individually, they are really scary. So it is up to Solary to show us a really good level of team play to beat Big Chroma and to find the perfect window to do so. Right now, if I were to just, hard bet onto either of the teams, ooh, if early game goes good for Big Chroma, they can win the game, but if the early doesn't really pop for them, it's going to be Solary.
Okay, what about you, J-Real?
So I'm saying I do feel like it's going to go down to Big Chroma. I think that they have a lot of potential throughout all stages of the game, and I think that obviously with records and stuff, it is there. In terms of pure composition, I again do agree with Solary, it does depend on that early, right? At 20 minutes, I think we'll very much know where the two teams are sitting, because if Solary are not ahead, they are going to be in big problems. But at the same time, it depends where the power lies, right? Because if the Camille is quite strong, but then the ADC is not, then maybe they have that potential to just one-shot the Tristana and carry on playing the game. But if it is the other way around and this Camille has been shut down and Sivir isn't really building up a lead, they could run into big problems. And look, at the end of the day, I want to change the name from Rocky Road to Hand of God for a reason. Blitzcrank makes the game so difficult for a team that's not happening.
Yeah. Well, let's see what these two teams are made of as we are about to head into the Summoner's Rift. So, J-Real, Solary, take it away.
Let's get into it. We have a little graphic before we're going in. Solary, you're the analyst, right? Let's play this one.
Yeah. What do you want me to analyze, my friend? Do you want me to analyze the mid lane? Because I would love to do it, to be honest. These two players are the ones we need to be watching very closely because their matchup is really interesting. You said about Lissandra, you were not exactly sure where she was going to go. The moment I saw her being picked into Ahri, it was like, it has to be the mid lane because there are not many champions that can effectively shut down Ahri on the mid lane. Some of them can try to stop her from scaling, from going too far ahead of everybody else, but in terms of just shut downing her effectively, it only can be Lissandra. Oh my god!
Yes, I love it. I love it so much. Let's go. Lumi with the flash straight in there, setting up the potential, setting up the pace of the game. Wait, have two people already died? What? Wait, oh no. Okay, the stats on there. Okay, all right, okay. I was like, I don't know how that worked. But either way, it is what it is. Early game, no one has died. Sorry about that little mishap. And look, we talked about expectations, we talked about how the game needs to go. Let's talk about how they get there now, right? So for Solary, we talked about them needing early game. We need early potential, as we are potentially seeing Big go for a late invade here. Is this potentially what you want to see from Big? Do you want to see them try and throw Solary off the tempo?
Yes, absolutely yes. I want them to slow down Solary as much as possible. I want them to make sure that the late game for Solary never actually happens. And they're on to it, J-Real. Look at them!
They're going aggressive. They're looking for this jump in. Here they go. Can they make it happen? Forcing Hao away. Absolutely massive Xavi there. Just jumping in, giving that threat. And obviously Lumi with the hook. It's always going to cause problems. But a nice pickup for Trez in that red buff. And as we said, it's now started to slow down Hao. If they can keep this tempo up and they can keep causing problems for Solary, it really is going to impact this game.
Let's see if they're going to continue this way, because we already saw 2 attempts from Big to have things accelerated around the both part of the map, and you can see where the emphasis of this game is going for them. But so far, it is still 0-0. They've gotten some very interesting summoner spells out of Solary, especially I'm looking at the Flash and Hao, because J4 has quite some ability, but without the Flash it is much harder to gank the lanes, especially if the ganks on the lanes on the enemy team are mobile. Look at Lissandra, she's going to be able to get away no problem from this J4 on the bot lane. This Tristana, who in the end is on the bot lane, I am slightly ever so disappointed, but okay, that's interesting, we take it. She's gonna get away no problem, and with Blitzcrank, she can even turn this whole thing around. So for Hao, definitely right now, she's slowed down in terms of her gank potential.
Yeah, now obviously Jarvan, notorious for that level 2, potentially the level 3 gank. They still do have chance to do that, but obviously with the low HP, they may need to base before they manage to get a full gank off. And we'll have to see where they're looking, right? Where do you want to see them looking for these ganks? Are we saying play through bot lane, play through top? Because they have 2 very, very strong late game carries in both those lanes, but obviously polarizing parts of the map makes it hard for J4 to affect both.
J4 is one man in the jungle, you know, he's just one little jungler. He cannot really split between the lanes, and that is what makes Solary's game so complicated here. They want to be everywhere, but Hao is really slowed down right now. Hao just needs to make sure she farms up, which is not the ideal scenario for J4 to be in. Again, J4 doesn't want to farming. J4 wants to be on the lanes, impacting them as much as possible. I am looking forward to the bot lane action, to be honest, because this Tristana is going to be pushing. We have a really interesting matchup there in the sense that we have 2 AD carries who have insane wave clear, and we also have J4 on the mid lane actually, alright, but again, that's Lissandra. She doesn't really care about your ganks.
Yeah, the fact that she can just kind of claw herself away, make it out easily alive, and also have the sort of Trez near, just means that it's going to be a tough gank. I think ganking Fangs is going to be a little bit of a difficult one, but if they can get a bit of a lead and allow the Ahri to roam post 6, I think the chances of them building an early game is really strong. But talking about early game, there's the gank. Good dodge though, but in comes Hao, trying to turn this one back around. Vixen does get out. We talked about the claw, but they just get in, they flashed away. But the roams from Lumi already starting to come out, and having that thought of a Blitzcrank could be in my lane is a little bit scary, but we have a bit of a fight in the jungle here. Trez is going to try and fight for this Raptors, as Hao now with support should be able to get a decent bit of damage. Charm onto Trez. Do we get first blood here? Lumi going to go right in the mixer, trying to sacrifice himself for their jungler. They will get their jungler to safety, but they do fall. First blood, Solary.
As long as it's not the jungler, I guess it's okay, but it's still the first blood giving away to Solary, and it's the first blood that you don't really want to be giving away to anybody, but especially not to Ari. Ari snowballs throughout her early game really nicely. Look at her, she's gonna come back to the lane with a lost chapter right now, which is a big power spike for the lane already. And for big right now, it means that it is Trace, it is Lilia who is going to be set down. She's still farming up, but she has no flash available anymore, which means her ganking opportunities right now are pretty limited. That was a very interesting situation in the jungle. I didn't expect it to end up like that, but shout out to Solary for being able to rotate to the fight's place so quickly.
Yeah, really strong from AOC, reading the map movements, moving up, matching up with Lumi as well, so that they have a 3 versus 2 rather than a 2 versus 2, and then good charm hitting from Fangs as well. And as you said, getting that Ahri ahead, we talked about how the roam potential from Fangs can be absolutely devastating for the side of Big Chroma. So if they are going to start to feed them kills, it maybe could start looking a little bit gloomy for them. But this bot lane, Xavi, able to farm up pretty nicely. And obviously you talked about the scaling of both of these ADCs. I will say Tristana, for me, a little bit more scary just because of the range that she can give, but it all depends on these fights. As Lumi going to take a bit of a chunk out of that fight.
Just a little bit. It's just half of her health. Nothing really to look at. But yeah, that was really painful. But back to your question, because it's an interesting one. Sivir has been buffed up a little bit for her early game recently, so she feels a little bit better there. She's not necessarily just strictly a hyper-scaling champion. But Tristana is in the same scenario. That's a lot of exchanges there on the top lane. But Tristana, she is interesting to me because she is a lane bully. She wants to bully the enemy the hell out of the lane. But then she has a very small down window in the mid game when she is not really feeling on the top of the world, but then in the late game she again comes back. She is again back on her high horse, and this is what is going to happen here to this Tristana unless she's going to be stopped. And Solary really need to stop thinking about the bot lane. How do they want it going? They might want to set Koyaska as far as possible, but right now it's a top lane that is hot.
Yeah, Yukiko in a bit of trouble here. Crow going aggressive, going to force the flash out of the Camille. And we also had Trez in the top side. And we talked about this Renekton link up with the Lilia. I really like it, but I also love this adaptation from Solary. They see the jungle on the map, they see Trez, they also know they have prio in both bot lane because they pushed it in and the mid lane, so they rotate for that dragon and they start their quest to get the dragon. So I like it, it fits with their game plan and it's very set for them. I want to talk a little bit about Trez though, because we talked about when they got caught out by that Jarvan, they obviously slowed their tempo a little bit, but overall they built themselves quite far ahead. And we talked about how Jarvan has that early 10-15 minutes, but then it all becomes Lilia, and they are well on their way to achieve that.
Oh yes, this Lilia is going to be a menace for Solary quite soon unless they find a way to stop Trace, because right now Lilia isn't worried about her clear speed. Right now, these days, with all the jungle changes, of course, the jungle clear doesn't really mean as much as it used to back in the days, you know, when we were young and jungle was before all the changes. But still, this Lilia is doing a lot. She is getting her items in. This is going to be a full AP Lilia from what it looks like, which means that late game damage is going to be insane coming out of Big, which is important because yes, they have Lissandra on the mid lane, who's also going to go into AP, but Lissandra is more of a utilitarian mid laner, which means they still need to have a carry who is going to bring in the AP damage, and Lilia is going to be that right now doing the Herald, which means the exchange of the objectives is going to be there unless Solary find a way to stop her, but honestly I don't think they will.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It is one to check in on, because you know what? Solary, they have started off decently. They are a little bit behind Big in terms of gold. They're about 400 down, but they do have a little bit more of the objectives with the Dragon. But it looks like the Herald is going to go over to Big, so we'll see if that also impacts where that gold lies. I'm wondering where they're going to place that one when they pick it up. Do they go bot lane? Do they go mid? Right now, the roaming from Lumi has left Xavi a little bit open, but so far, Solary can't really punish it.
Yes, so far Solary don't really find any ways on the map to punish the enemies. They were granted 1 kill in the early game, but right now they are in a tough spot because on the top lane they cannot do much because Chroma is permanently in control of the top lane. That is what Renekton is going to do to you in most of the cases, unless he's shut down from the very first minute in the game, and that is what he's doing right now. Lilia is pretty much utilizing this opportunity to extend this towards taking the Herald that we saw a little bit earlier, towards putting even more vision into the enemy's jungle. But right now, I don't think Trace is going to go to the mid lane to release the Herald unless they want to set up the next dragon, which is going to be the Mountain Dragon in a little bit more than 2.5 2.5 minutes. I think it has to be either the top lane to try to give a kill to Renekton, try to give more gold to Renekton, or bot lane, because there is still that Tristana. You need to give items to Tristana. She needs gold.
And also just even unlocking Tristana, sorry, unlocking Solary from the map. Tristana from the map is going to be a big prominence one, as right now How gonna get caught out, went aggressive, but in the shadows lied many of Big Chroma. They're going to be able to pick up that kill and even that one out. One to the mid lane, so Vixen going to be a little bit happier there in that lane. Will close down that gold lead that Ari did have. But yeah, unlocking that Tristana, really important in my eyes, because if you get Xalvi around the map and you can start using them to start breaking all the towers, you can build a huge gold lead. So I do think if they can drop the Herald in bot lane, it would be the most beneficial. But right now, Xalvi looking really strong, building a gold lead, getting a little bit of a potential lead across against that Sivir. And you talked about it, having that bully potential has paid off the early.
In that it's going to be the Herald on the mid lane. There is still more than a minute and a half before the Drake, so it's not just setting up the objectives, it is straight on bullying poor Ari, or trying to bully poor Ari out of the lane, getting more gold for themselves in case of Trace, getting more gold towards that Lysandre for Vixen on the mid lane. So it's not overall too bad, but I would love to see this Herald being used on Tristana, to be honest, because it's not like Tristana needs any help cutting through the turrets, let's put it straight, but she would love to get to her items because she is working towards her item right now. I'm not sure what exactly it's going to be at this point, but look at that, there's a fight again.
Here we go, knock up into knock up, a great buffer there of the rocket jump, but it's not going to make a difference. Good auto flash from Koyoska, and they pick up a kill. We talked about how they hadn't really managed to punish Xavi, but they managed to make it happen there. Good gank coming out from How. We wanted to see that early aggression, and that is exactly what we want to see more of. So, can they turn that into more though? Can they get this dragon? 40 seconds. It is going to be Xavi back up. Do you feel like they're now starting to push that momentum a little bit? Static shift already completed for Sivir.
Ooh, that is a very important moment. Static shift itself necessarily is not the power spike for anybody, but it is an important item to have, especially on somebody like Sivir, because I touched it very briefly already, but both of these AD carries are excellent at wave clear and adding static shift to their inventories, because I think that for Tristana it's going to be the same item as the first item is massive. Oh my god, what is this Blitzcrank?
Blitzcrank charging in. They also have the Tristana. There's the hook, but it doesn't matter. They're able to jump away. They get out, but there's the sleep. Two members are locked up for a little nap, but here comes TPs. The fight may continue. Big looking to go a little bit more, but they've pushed away Solary in good timing as well. Dragon just spawning now, and they have now got position in the river.
Oh, yo, you did it!
I told you, Hand of God, man. Change the name. It's not just a rocket grab. It's the Hand of God on a play, is a kill, and is now a free dragon to Big Chroma.
That is not just a free dragon. That is free prior on the bot part of the map. That is mid lane. That hands bot lady. That hands dragon in. That hands nobody can even walk into that river. A little pool water is not going to do much because nobody.
No way.
That was just first style points, okay? This hook didn't even need to happen. Rakan is just, flexing around. Rakan can jump away, doesn't matter. It is just for the flat points from the side of Big Chroma. But that was good fighting from them. That was really good setup. And again, we can see the experience, the individual, and as a team from Big coming into play. And this has been so far out of all these 30 minutes in the game, the scenario for them. Big want to control the map, and Big have really good macro to support them in this desire. They put a lot of very deep vision into Solary's jungle. They try to always understand how Solary are moving, especially how they want to read how as much as possible. Only didn't really work for them once on the bot lane with Tristana unfortunately dying, but other than that, they know how Solary move around the map. While Solary don't necessarily always have the same understanding of Big's movement, which allows them to be catching Fangs on the mid lane off guard over and over.
And it's also the confidence, right? They're playing aggressive. They're playing to their style. They know what they want to do. They have a game plan and they're executing. They needed to get problems for How. They need to slow down How in that jungle, make sure that they can control a bit more of the early game, and they did that. They got the late invade. They then go for these plays where they're able to get a little bit of a gank, get a little bit of a lead, set themselves up for that second dragon. So again, slowing down Solary's tempo in that early game, giving them more space to grow, giving them more space to scale. And you look at the numbers, you look at the leads. Right now, okay, it is all going the way of Big Chroma, except in that bot lane where we do have Koyoska a little bit ahead of Xavi.
quite ahead actually. That is quite a nice difference there, because both of these AD carries have been farming toe-to-toe so far, but this one additional kill for Koyasu is really doing all of the difference. Half an item pretty much ahead of Tristana. This is pretty big for Sivir. Again, Sivir wants her early game to start for her as soon as possible. She wants to get to her items, she wants to get to them as soon as possible, and so far she's doing a better job at that than Tristana. However, this Kraken Slayer on Tristana is an interesting turn of events. There are so many builds for Tristana, especially on the bot lane. Is a little bit still of the, dark area for me, but this Kraken Slayer is going to be really beneficial, especially if this G4 is going to go into a buffier build later on.
Yeah, tell me that you don't like allow it without telling me that building Kraken Slayer, If you know, you know. But right now, in that mid lane, I like that they've switched this up, right? Big have moved their bot lane into the mid. They're trying to open up this very key turret of the map, which would give them so much control, and again, fits the game plan. Slow down Solary. If you open up this mid, it makes it much more difficult for them to set up plays. It makes it much more difficult for them to get to the dragons, and it also pushes your potential to go for those towers on the outer, because you'll get way more control of the jungle. So I like it. I like this thought process. They also dropped the Herald there a little bit earlier to get it lower down, and in those side lanes you can put Lissandra, you can put the Renekton, because they're both going to be very safe.
Oh yes, they're going to feel very necessary, especially right now with Renekton still being 0-0-0 at 14th minute in the game. You want to use him as much as possible on the side lanes, just as a pretty much straight on split pusher. But perfect timing from Big. They got the control of the mid lane back into their hands in the perfect timing, because this is the Herald up. They already have 3 members of their team taking it as we are speaking. Nothing else to do on the map, so there is not going to be any potential for an exchange of objectives unless Solary going to take this turret. It's going to be the first turret of the game for them, and that is going to put them in much nicer way in terms of the goal difference between the teams, until Big Chroma releases Herald. Right now there is a window for Solary to do something.
Vixen gonna be able to get away there. Frozen Claw gets them out, but now in trouble. Cataclysm comes through, but good stasis will give them the time. Frozen Tomb wasn't gonna be enough though, and it's gonna be a nice pick up there for Koyaska, getting this ADC ahead. We talked about it from Solary. If they can build up their hyper carry, she can tear down Big Chroma, but big trades are happening right now. They're looking to swap over the tier 1s, and it will be pretty simple for Zavi and the rest of Big Chroma to take down.
Oh, that is going to be so good for Big right now, because look at that. They're taking the first turret without the help of the Herald. They can have a boink into the inner turret right now with the Herald. If they're lucky enough, and they're lucky because they have Tristana, they could even transfer it into the boink of the base turret.
They managed to get the second, but Trez is going to be left. Good roam from Yukiko will pick up one in a consolation prize, but the gold from this turret is just pushing them back into that even status. Right now we see where it all went a little bit crazy for Big Chroma right now. Obviously they necessarily weren't expecting the big dive. The Frozen Tomb does come out, buys much from the side of Solary, and they pick up that easy kill,
which puts them into a 4-2 position and a very nice position in terms of the gold, because despite this Herald situation on the mid lane, the gold is dead even between the teams, putting Solary in a good spot to keep giving more gold for their hyper carries. And right now you can already see who is going to be the hyper carry of the team. Kryaska getting ready. That is a massive power spike. Oh my goodness, Charm!
Here we go again, Frozen Tomb, but underneath the tower, a little bit more difficult. There's many more members, and how now Koltov from the team is going to be taken out by Zavi, and they're looking for more. Fangs, AOC, Kuaska, all very low, and Lumi has that hook, looking for a target. Flash forward, grabbed, but the spell shield from the Sivir keeps him alive, but now Trez is going to be jumping forward. 2 sleeps, 1 bonk, and that's a double kill! Lilia going massive. They managed to get 4 kills there, and it opens up for potential towers to be taken. Top tier 1 is down. They're looking for the second, and they may be even looking for the mid tier 3.
4 kills, out of which 3 went into the pockets of Lilia, and Tristana wasn't even in the fight. Tristana is doing Tristana things on the top lane at this very moment, but this is big from Big Chroma. They're coming in with a big play today. Absolutely massive slip there from Lilia. This is just the perfect example of how well played Big really are as a team, but
Yukiko played that clean. Rocket jump away into the Hextech ultimatum. You're not getting out of this one. Nice pickup, as we're going to see. Break it down, Solary. What went down in this mid lane?
The charm went down from Fangs. I'm pretty sure of that, with Vixen trying to protect the turret. But look at that, the perfect charm plus the Everfrost immediately coming out from Fangs. But unfortunately, after that, things go a little bit wild because Hao is finding himself a little bit too deep into the enemy's territory and dying in the process. And everybody is too low in health because they were still fighting under this turret this whole time. And the reaction time from Big was excellent. Tristana was there with him, by the way. I made a little mistake there. Tristana was in that fight, especially in the first part of it. But it does not matter anymore because Solary are still looking strong on the map. They are taking the Drake, and it's going to be their second Drake in this game.
And I guess it's kind of the trade-off, right? They're not there for the dragon. It's the second dragon for Solary. It's an ocean soul. It's a potential win condition if they can start to build it up. But it's only the second Drake. They need another 10 more minutes for that to become potent. Whereas Big Chroma, they got a huge gold lead. They got 3k up off of that big team fight plus towers being taken. So I would say, all in all, pretty worth for Big Chroma, and they still have a lot of control. And if we go back to our previous set, how you win the game formulation, I feel like Big are hitting their marks a lot more. They've managed to keep Solary behind, and they're getting their carries scaling.
Everywhere except for the top lane, it's worked nicely for them. Because Renekton right now, Chromac is not really having the best time of her life. She usually prefers to do much more in the team fights and just on the map in general, getting the kills, getting in the gold. Just right now, this Renekton is just stable, and that's it. This Renekton is getting in the gold, especially if you compare him to Yukiko, but not doing anything else. Not the perfect situation for Renekton, but as long as it works for the team, it is fine, and it is definitely working for the team. They are getting Trez in a very good spot. 7 charges, 7 stacks already on that Road of Ages, plus the second item completed, looking strong, looking towards the third item. This Lydia is a big problem for Solary, not just because it's Lydia and the items and the damage, no, but also because of the sleep, which is a massive crown control that Trez keeps putting so perfect onto Solary over and over, and because it's so hard for Solary to catch that Lydia off guard. Nobody apart from Yukiko or Fangs, if she's really, really good with the charms, is able to catch Lydia, because that's what she does. She kites you, she jumps around you, she never lets you put anything on her. She's
so quick. Like, we talk about animals, right? And being fast. And theoretically, a bear runs as fast as a horse. But, I don't know, a whimsical deer? Yeah, that's a fact. A whimsical deer? Yo, they be speedy. But right now, talking about speedy, you need to be pretty quick if you're Yukiko, because you slept under the tower, you're going to get bonked, and you are gone. Tier 2 is open for Big Chroma in the bot lane, but they are sending, Solary are sending members over to that one, so they will defend it. They won't lose that tower. But are they potentially losing control of this game? Trez has got so far ahead.
Yeah, it is going to be really hard to stop her. Right now for Solary, the only way they can try to stop this Lydia is to get Koyaska as far as possible. Oh, interesting move this, Ho.
No, I feel like this is dangerous.
Yeah.
I was low-key, I'm not going to lie, I was expecting the hook to come back out to bring Hao back into the fight, and then Xavi just absolutely go mental on the Tristana damage, but it isn't to be. Hao does get out safely. Baron on the map. It's been up for about a minute. Are we expecting either team to heavy prio it? Is either team capable of crushing this Baron up quickly, as we do see tier 2 getting taken down by some minions?
Either of the teams can do it, because look at the AD carries of both of the teams. They can cut through these Barons really quickly, but I would have my money on Big right now. If I had any money, I would put it on Big to take the Baron quicker than Solary, and to put more emphasis on it, because they have more control over the map. Yes, Solary have been quite successful in taking quite some turrets on the map, but they're mostly on the bot side. They don't really have much vision or much control over the top part of the map, and this is where all the action is going to be happening right now. Big right now are in a position where they can even allow Solary to get more control over the bot lane. They just keep Renekton there just in case for safety. Yeah, that's Rakan for you. Don't really catch him that easily. I'm sorry.
Good flash. But AOC no flash.
Huh. That is actually quite hurtful. That is not a good time to be without a flash for anybody on the map. And so far, everybody has their flash up and running, apart from AOC.
Now, next dragon, 1 minute 20. I feel like both teams are going to be setting up for it, although hold the phone, because here comes the Exec ultimatum, but trying to get away. AOC doesn't need the flash because they have a dash. They get in there, they get the charm, and they manage to pick up the kill onto Xavi, and they're looking for more. Trez, the big menace that we've talked about, is now in a tough situation. Stasis in between 4, but here comes Chromac. Here comes the savior. The rest of the team are coming back into this fight, and Big are moving back into this one. Damage is going down. Solary are starting to fall, and they may pick up one, but they're all going to base on a group trip.
Oh, and here it comes. Here is the moment Chroma has been waiting for, I'm pretty sure, since the beginning of the game. It's another triple triple kill for Lilia. Lilia, who was supposed to die in this exchange, is getting out of it alive. 7-1-4 right now with a triple goddamn kill on her hands as well. This is disgusting and we'll love to see it for Big right now, but Chroma was insane in that fight, coming in with the Dominus prop immediately. So much control, so much survivability because of the two items. The Gold Drinker is allowing Chroma, is allowing Renekton to live for the longest time ever possible, and right now Big are claiming their prize. The head of the Baron Nashor is going to be with them.
Big movements for Big Chroma. Baron Nashor is there, and this fight, it started off so well for Solary.
They're going in. They have some vision here at the river, so they feel confident. But right now, are you sure you're confident, LC?
They're going in again. Lumi is caught out in between at 4. They are going to go down, but can the team turn this back around? Big, we've seen them make these plays before. Chroma going ahead, but not getting in between the team. And down goes Xavi. Goodbye, Tristana. But here comes the raid boss. Trez is still alive and still kicking. Could cause big problems trying to proc that sleep on many members. Vixen going to have to go into the Frozen Tomb, then into stasis, buying a lot of time, but is not going to make it out.
Oh, J-Rail, what did we just witness? I mean, I'm going to tell you what we just witnessed. That was really good team fight from Solary. Finally, they found the ground that they want to be fighting on, that they can be fighting on. Koyaska going completely unstoppable, just gathering so many more kills into her pockets, paired up with OC setting up the ground for her, paired up with Funk's brilliant point-on charm right there onto... Who was it? I don't even remember. Every single charm from Fang so far has been excellent, but let's see it on the replay because I don't remember there was so much happening in the fight with Illumina unfortunately getting caught out there, getting killed very, very quickly by Koyaska. Kerr goes in. Chromac looks like it's going to be maybe the turning point, but the amount of control, the amount of terrain control that we mentioned when we saw the J4 in the draft is going to be there for Solary in the end. And here it comes. This is the moment where they turn around. They know they can go on to Vixen. They know they can kill Vixen, maybe even try to kill Trez, but Trez again is who jumps away, and it's really hard to catch her off guard when you don't really have any more control left for you. But you don't even need to do it. You're 11-11 right now. You managed to stop the bleeding of the goal difference between the teams a little bit for the time being, so Solary are back in the game.
And they picked up another dragon. They are now 1 away from Soul Point. They are 4 minutes away from being able to get the Ocean Soul, which could lever them back into this game. It could really put a lot of pressure onto Big Chroma. And we talked about, okay, Solary need the early game. They need to snowball. But right now, Big Chroma, they had the lead and they're starting to let it slip out of their grasp. Is this the opening that Solary needed? Can they still turn this game back in their favor?
It's not going to be easy. Oh my man, it's going to be really hard, but they definitely can try. They can still keep trying to play around Koyaska is on 3 items right now, going towards the 4th one, maybe something like the Bloodthirsty, for example, that will help with survivability in the fight. But right now, Big are still pushing in with all their wave clear, with all their fighting potential. It's so hard for Solary to defend their base.
And especially the threat of sleep, the threat of grab, the threat of Chromac just jumping in. They have to keep their distance, but the damage is starting to pile up. Koyaska able to get a lot, and here goes the Team Cataclysm to hold them still. And goodbye! It's an ace right outside their base, and they are all alive. A flawless fight for the side of Solary.
How did it happen so quickly? I need to see a replay, and I need it to be slowed down, I don't know, 100 times. Yeah, thank you very much. Exactly like that, because that was really good from Solary. The fact that they started piling up the damage onto the enemies, especially onto the Tristana, because again, that is severe. It is really easy for her to land the damage onto the enemies, especially when they're so grouped up, especially when she already has 3 items completed. After that, it is the massive amount of control coming from Solary. It is so lovely to see them having such a clear understanding of what they need to do in this fight. And look at that, that is them now on the enemy's base.
And you talked about it, they do have late game potential. They had to get the early game lead to give themselves an opportunity, but they've managed to get Koyaska very far ahead. We mentioned this player from the get-go. This could be their hero, and that damage in that team fight, the lead that they have, it is just so powerful. And now they can potentially start opening up for these objectives. 2 minutes away from the Ocean Soul, 2 minutes 50 for the Baron, and they've already cracked open the tier 3 in mid. Things are looking up for Solary.
However, Big are not really giving up yet, and they shouldn't, because they still have the chance to take this game back into their hands. Their top lane and their jungle especially are still leading compared to Solary. Everywhere else, it's quite a different situation, but the top part is what they can still try to play around. Their Lilia is still strong, still dealing a lot of damage, still controlling, sitting on 3 items. The Zonius is a very crucial item for her right now, possibly allowing her to survive for a little while longer. And I have a feeling there might be a Relay completed as the next item for Trez, and if it happens, the additional control thrown into the fights from the big side, it might just be a little bit too much for Solary to deal with, because so far Solary have been successful in the last fights because Koyaska has been left alive. Nobody could get close to her, partly because thanks to our C, but partly just because nobody can cut through Solary to get to her quickly enough and to shut this Seaver down. If Big do that, if Big find the way to get onto Koyaska, they should be able to turn the fights around, but let's see if they manage to do so.
And they almost had it. I will say this. Like, we didn't bring up too much in the replay, but Lumi got the grab on Koyaska in that last fight. But as you said, the front wall, the line that was held by Solary was too much, and they couldn't deal with it. But if there is a grab that takes Koyaska into the back line and she goes down early, it could be curtains for Solary. But we'll have to find out, because I will say Fang's also doing quite a lot of damage in these team fights.
Actually, yeah, we kind of have been a little bit sleeping on Ari because we've been praising those charms coming out of Fangs, but so far, look at the itemization. It's not looking bad. Yeah, the book is not there, unfortunately. This is not the orthodox build for Ari, but we take it because there is already the hat on her head, and it's a good item. It's a good additional damage for that Ari. But look at Big, they're not wasting any time. They want to have a clutch play on the mid lane.
Yeah, Solary? So, no! Koyaska getting hooked there. Good flash away. We'll be able to get them safely out of there. Avoids the knockup with the spell shield, and they are going to survive. I was going to say, woo! Solary almost giving over a free mid tier 3, but they are able to keep themselves stable. They don't lose it, but Koyaska losing flash and cleanse could be a big problem as we go to the dragon, which is now just spawned.
Fangs is still in the top lane, unbothered, moisturized, in her lane, nourished. Feeling very good, getting the turrets one after another. It's 2 turrets already, and yes, Speak are on the Drake right now, but they cannot immediately rotate to the Baron or force Solary to do anything else, because right now they're at the risk of losing their turret on the top lane. And look at Solary, look at how nicely they're playing around it. They are starting the Baron. Fangs is not too far. Fangs can rejoin. Eve has a TP
3k. Now they're going to be moving forward, but there's the Baron. It's already gone down. Vixen jumping in, and here goes Trez, but they may not have the time. That's going to be 2 Barons gone, because How is surely going down, but the rest get away. 3 Barons saved, and Solary pull off a heist.
Oh, that was a heist indeed, actually. With some vision available for Solary, they know exactly what is happening around them, but Big are closing in. A little bit too late for the party to try to do anything with the Baron itself, but at least they get some Barons out of the enemies. They still have a lot of control of the mid lane. They're getting this turret, J-Real.
Oh, 20 seconds on the death timers of both How and Koyaska. Maybe this is the opening that Big needed. They managed to take the tier 3 in mid lane. They're now going for the inhibitor in bot lane as well. Hook just a little bit shy from Lumi, but the danger is still looming around this team. Big take 2 inhibitors and walk away, and that puts them in a much better map state.
They are feeling good right now. 2 inhibitors down, which, however, is always very risky if you have Seaver on the enemy team, because she is very thankful for all the gold that is going to be pouring towards her way, towards her base. The additional gold from those big minions is something Koyaska is going to be very, very thankful for. But right now, Big still are in control. But remember that as well. They destroyed 2 inhibitors against a team that still has 3 Baron buffs on their hands, and they're still pushing with their own minions towards me. Going to be slowed down a little bit, but it is still something Big need to address right here, right now. The split push is still real for Solary as well. Oh my god, though!
Oh, Yukiko in trouble, gets away with the hook shot, but there is the jump. It is no running from Xavi. They're able to get across many walls and just leaps back into the fray, picking away Yukiko. And these small mistakes from Solary could be really costly, right? They had a lot of tempo, they were having the rhythm, they were getting themselves into that big lead, that threatening position to maybe take it away from Big, but now things are starting to slip, and here comes the pick. How not going to be slept, will be able to jump away. Unfortunately going to be to safety, but 4v5, they need to make sure that they can keep their base alive.
It's not going to be easy because look at Big. They see the enemies. They have blood in their eyes right now. They want to go for those bigs with their Blitzcrank. Can they find somebody? Can they find Koyaski? Can they find Owlsy? No, they cannot. But they can find the turret quite possibly because Tristan is still there with them. Oh, how? In the meantime.
Ooh. And they can find this damage. Vixen taking half their life from Koyaski's boomerang blade there. You need to be careful about the damage that can come out from Solary.
Yeah, it is quite a lot of damage from both of the sides, to be honest. But Solary, yes, they are back in the game. Because look at the gold. It is again pretty much that even between the teams with a very slight lead for Solary. And it's important to see who this lead is sitting on Ari. 4 items, Ari. I am not a fan of Banshee, but I can see the idea here against Blitzcrank. This is the only scenario where I can forgive it. The items on Koyaski.
Oh! Here we go. Aggressive play. Cataclysm. It is going to be Trez in stasis, but they're in such a tough situation. They get taken down. Koyaska is now able to get into this fight, but here comes the rest of Big, and they are starting to shred through Solary. Jump in, they're moving forwards, and they are last alive. Yukiko is not going to have the damage, and this is what we talked about. We talked about the scaling. Zavi has got to 4 items, and they are now TPing into the base. That is going to be a quick blast of these towers, and the Tristana came online and shut it all down.
Oh yes, Tristan versus the turret. Who is going to win? That is a very easy answer to give to this question, and this is going to be game number 1 out of this best of 3 into the hands of Big Chroma in a very excruciating fight, going back and forth on the map, getting to both of the bases of the teams, but in the end it is Big Chroma who are taking game number 1. One more, and they're winning this best of 3, J-Real.
Indeed, they're 1 away from taking it home. We talked about who we were going to win. I predicted Big Chroma to take this one.
Yeah.
That's not how I expected it to go. I'm not going to lie to you. That was not how I was setting this one out. We talked about our expectations. We talked about how we thought it would be. If Solary weren't leading from the early, then it was going to be Big's game all over. But Solary had this amazing comeback. They had this second win out of nowhere, and they started to win these team fights. But as the game carried on, the scaling just a little bit too much on Big Chroma's side. And I will say, shout out to that Lilia, man. Trez able to buy so much time in these team fights, that last team fight especially, just giving space for the team to come in and make it a 5v5 rather than like a 3v5 to allow them to pick up those wins. I'm very impressed.
Very short note from me though. I was a little bit worried for Solary in the beginning of the game because it did look like the game was really strongly in the hands of Big Chroma, but Solary finding amazing backups, proving to me that I was wrong in the beginning of the game by thinking that maybe, you know, they lack in the vision, they lack in macro. They showed that they do not lack in any of those things. That was a really solid, really strong game from both of the teams, but in the end, the one that is approaching the team fights a little bit better is going to win, and in this case, it was Big Chroma.
It was Big Chroma. That is game 1. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Women Great back with us, and we're going to go into game 2.